dental decoding. Why are we here to to understand dental decoding? Well, I am a dentist, and while I've been working with teeth, I am a third generation dentist. So in my family, well, we've always um, seen that when things happen in your mouth, when things happen in teeth, things happen in psychology, and things happen in relation. So I've been working with this hidden code that are behind our teeth to understand the somatization of what they are saying to us. So the expression dental decoding means that we need to decode a secret or a hidden code that is in our that are inside of our teeth. Our everything comes from the beginning, because when we're born, we experience our world through our mouth. Our nutrition, what we eat, what we drink, everything comes from our mouth. In our mouth, we can eat, we can drink, we can breathe through our mouth, and it's through the mouth where you express yourself, when you can talk, when you can laugh, when you can cry. Your mouth is this transition point where those things happen. So everything in in our life has a symbolic meaning. Symbols are very important for our unconscious, because symbology is the language of our unconscious. So many times when we eat, for example, something, we are not just eating food, we are eating things that we are feeling in this moment, things that are happening, information we receive. So all this process through eating, digesting, and then you eliminate things are also a symbology of the information being processed in ourselves. So, as we know through psychology, we have eight uh, huge moments um, in our lives, in our birth, that will be archetypes in our future relations. Eight things that happens when we are born. The way we born, if we go through the birth channel, in which way, if we get blocked there, how the cord is cutted until you stand up for the first time. Those are the eight mnemonic footsteps of birth. That is the way we call it in psychology. Those eight different things, they leave eight different programations in your mouth. As you know, the adult has 32 teeth, 8 teeth per quadrant. We have 4 quadrants. Those quadrants create each one of those quadrants, central incisors, lateral incisors, canines, first premolars, second premolars, first molars, second molars, wisdom tooth. Each one of them is a have the influence uh, of those mnemonic archetypes. So after analyzing that, we can understand where each meaning of each tooth comes from. And are not just teeth are not just teeth. Teeth are also part of a sensitive system. Let's look at a presentation I created for you. Okay. Okay, here we are. Okay. So when we are talking about a tooth, we can see that a tooth has different layers. Okay, here we are. Okay. So when we are talking about a tooth, we can see that a tooth has different layers. We have the enamel, we have the dentin, and then we have the pulp, okay? And the tooth has fibers that bind the gum to the root of the tooth. So we have different layers. Each layer has a different meaning in the representation, in the symbolical representation of tooth. So our teeth are effectors, are, let's see, are part of us of our nervous system. They are like radars to catch some of the specific vibrations that are around us. The mouth, as we said, is the entrance for all the essential in life, but also the opening for the spoken word through which we verbalize. Our teeth are crystals, they are made of crystal, not they are not made from bone or nothing like that. They are crystals that are influenced by the vibration of our words, by our nervous system, and by the 12 acupuncture meridians that are expressed on our cheeks. So, this is a complete dentition of an adult where you can find 4 quadrants: an upper right, an upper left, a lower left, and a lower right. Each one of them with different meanings, and each family with different uh, symbologies. Okay, so let's try to understand the hidden part of the function of teeth. So, as you can say in this resonator, I hope you could have this experience in school. When you have a resonator and you have two exact uh, equal resonators, when you make one of them vibrate, the other one will vibrate in the same way, in the exact same way. That is one of the functions of our teeth. Crystal is the biological structure that most efficiently transmits vibrations and resonances. How that happens? As you know, everything around us is vibration. So you can see through your eyes the luminic frequencies. You can feel the vibration of the air through your ears. And there are more subtle vibrations that has an emotional frequency. We have 5 fundamental emotions that they create different frequencies in our field. Through teeth, you can feel that kind of vibrations that is different from the ones we can hear and from the ones we can see. They are just vibrations, frequencies. So when we understand that, we can see that each tooth has a different shape, a different form, and they can receive. They they can observe different frequencies to transmit those frequencies to specific areas on the brain. So, what happens when we smile? why would we smile? Something is positive for us, we do this. Why don't we raise our arms, or why don't we move our hands? Why, when something is good for us, we do this? Because everything that is happening in our when we are, when you have something positive for you, that is nutrition, you can absorb those vibrations through showing your radars, through showing your teeth. That's why when something means there's no danger, there's no problems, and that is good for you, you just smile. You absorb that information in order to integrate that information in your system. When the things that are outside are toxic, or you don't want to integrate that information in yourself, you close your mouth, you don't show it. That's why we can understand that every human every human has this smile way of expressing that positive things. This is because nobody asks why we smile. This is one of the things that happens. So, okay, I want to receive that information that is happening around us. What kind of information? Information related to relations. Why related to relations? Because we, as humans, we are a gregarious species. We are a species. We are a kind of animal which we only survive if we are in group. We are collaborative. We need to be in a group. In order to survive, we need to belong to a group. Many times, this group is a group of two, maybe your partner and you, but we need the group. So that's why in our relations goes our sense of survival. Relations are very important for us because without the other, we will never survive. Remember that for our brain, we are still living 10,000 years ago. We are in the cave, we are fighting, we need to hunt. Okay. So for the unconscious part of our brain, we need to be in this group in order to collaborate, to hunt, to find what we need, and in order to defend our group. Okay. So relations are survival for us. We cannot say, oh, I don't need nobody. Yes, you do need. So when we smile, here is what we said about smiling. So you show those radars that are expressed on your teeth. So how those radars work? Imagine that we are talking about, for example, the upper right central incisor, this tooth, which has the nerve inside of it. This is a sagittal cut of our head. And let's talk about this tooth. This tooth, the tooth number 8, upper right central incisor, is a tooth that represent what we call the father function. What is a father function? Father is not a specific person. Father is not just the biological person who gave us 50% of our DNA. It's a function. So this father function can be done by other by many people. Can be done by a woman, can be done by somebody who takes care of us. It's just a function, but it's a very important function. While you are alive, you always have a father function. Sometimes this father function is a person, sometimes this father function is a concept. What is a father function? A father function has different characteristics. One of them is the guide. So remember that if we are talking about tooth number 8, upper right central incisor, we're telling that the right side of your mouth, you have represented all what we call the masculine or active dynamics. What is that? A masculine dynamic is when you express yourself outside of you. You have two ways of expressing. You can use your masculine dynamics. It doesn't matter your gender. We are talking about dynamics. You can use your energy outside of you in order to change the world because you are powerful enough to do it. For example, uh, I don't have a roof where I am, so I can build a roof, walls, and protect myself. So you use your energy to change your world, to change your relations, to change a reality. When you think that you cannot change the things that are outside of you, the only way to adapt to that is to adapt yourself. So you use your energy to adapt yourself to a reality that you cannot change. So this is the feminine dynamics or the passive dynamics. You change yourself, you adapt yourself to something you cannot change. For example, I live in an island, in a tiny island with no cows. It doesn't matter that you like beef. You have to adapt yourself to eat fish. There's no way you cannot change that reality. Okay, you don't like fish, but you have to adapt to eat fish. So you have to adapt your preference to eat fish. This is a silly example, but it represents what we are trying to say. So you change your world or you change yourself, masculine dynamics or feminine dynamics. Okay. So the archetype of masculine dynamics that is going out to hunt to get what we need from the world to use your energy when you go hunting is father function because in our species we hunt in a group. So we go there, we hunt in this group, we collaborate with this group. So the one that guides that group is father function. So father function teach me how to go out to the world, how to express myself outside of the world. He also is the one who nourishes the spirit through the word. What is that? It means is that person that when he or she speaks, you close your eyes and you project that. This is archetypical. For example, you need to go to hunt. In order to hunt, you need to make a plan. You need to you need to be faster and wiser than the animals you're going to hunt. So you need to project your plan. So your father function, that guide, will tell you, okay, let's go behind that hill where there's a river, where we are going to hide behind those rocks and we'll wait for the animals to pass and then we'll kill them. So you close your eyes and you think you create an image through what he's saying. This is very important because this is our ability to create projection. If you want to do something, you need to project it. If you want to go to the mall, okay, I take my car, I will drive through the mall, I will arrive. So you create a plan inside of yourself. Always that we are projecting something, we are taking this archetype, this father function archetype that will always be linked to that person that made that function when you were a kid, when you were young, when you were a child. So he's the guide, he's the one who nourishes my spirit through the word. So if any person that inspires you, when you feel that you are being inspired, you are projecting something. This is a father function. This is a link to your archetypical father function. Also, the father function is the protector in the outside world. What is a protector? In order to go hunting, you need this group. Only in the group you will feel protected in order to collaborate to get what you need. So he's the protector. When you need protection, when you're doing something, you go to that father function in your heart. Many times we have anxiety, many times we feel blocked because in our heart, in our unconscious history, we don't have a protective father function. So we feel nervous when we are trying to do things. In order to planificate, in order to make a plan, you need your intellect. So no knowledge, intellect, all this mathematic um, brain process is also connection to father function. So father function is my psychological unconsciousness. We have a biological unconscious and a psychological unconscious. Father function represents also the psychological unconscious. Who represents the biological unconscious? This is the mother function. Mother function is represented into number 9, upper left, central inside circle. That she has many other things, and she is the first one to teach you how to integrate things, how to adapt yourself to things you cannot change, how to take care of yourself, of your body. The relation you have with your body is a symbology of your relation with your mother. Also, your intuition is a relation with all the women of your female lineage. When you feel something, when you have a perception, it always comes with a biological feeling in your body. So this feeling, those sensations you have inside of your body, is your body talking to you? This is your intuition. Many people just don't pay attention to the intuition. Many people has a huge intuition and can interpret that intuition. because this is a strong mother function. Many times we blockade father function or mother function, and it will create different kind of psychology. So talking about father function, again, in the right side of our mouth, this father function is the guide, is the intellect, is the projection, is the protection in the outside world. Who protects us in the inside world, in ourselves? This is mother. Okay, so let's talk about father function that we've been talking in this right side. So in the diagram I was showing to you, we said, okay, imagine that you are in a normal life situation in your relations, and you have a conflict. Well, let's say what is a conflict. A conflict is something that goes out of what you can prevent. Okay, it's something that follows a different way that it's outside of your control, or you project that this can happen. Okay, so you don't know, you're not sure what you're going to do with this new information. So imagine that you're a married woman whose father function is her husband. He inspires you, he guides you in certain symbolical things. And one day he says, okay, uh, I cannot deal with this relation anymore. I will go away. Oh. So this is a conflict. This is an information that was not prevented by you. So you have conflict with something related with that archetype in your relation, in your field. So this is a specific vibration with many devaluation, let's say, or with fear to what's going to happen in the future or whatever. So it is an information with a certain vibration that is coming to you. You will feel it with all the teeth, but the one who will vibrate exactly with that archetype, with this other function, is tooth number 9, upper right central incisor. So what would happen? Let's see that on the diagram. So imagine that you receive that information in the way of frequencies. You may speak things, conflictual things regarding that. So this tooth is receiving information from the outside or maybe from the inside, from maybe you. So it will vibrate specifically with things regarding that archetype. This tooth will send that information to a specific center, control center for each tooth in the brain. This center in the brain will process that information. Okay? So after being processed, this information will be sent back to the tooth in order to adapt yourself to what is happening. So many times, if this information is very conflictual, your brain will send back an information that will change the polarity, the electrical polarity of the tooth. And this tooth, with this change of polarity can create many different things in that tooth. Because through the change of polarity, maybe you can create a cavity, or you can create a periodontal problem, infection, or a gingival problem. Why? Because we know that bacteria, they react to electrical polarities. For example, if you if there's a baby, a recently born baby, and you want to put an earring in that baby, you will put an earring made of gold, usually made of gold. Why gold? Because we know that gold will not infect, will not have infection. Why? Because the polarity of gold, the electrical polarity of this metal, gold, it rejects bacteria, is bacteriostatic. If you put another metal, many times it can have an infection problem. So we try to use gold. The same happens with our teeth many times. When the polarity of the tooth changes, it may create a cavity. We'll see the process of how a cavity can be created, or it can attract bacteria, because we know that periodontal diseases, periodontal problems, problems in your gums, are because of infections, are because of bacteria that are around the roots of a tooth. And you may go to the dentist, you may clean in different ways, but your your tooth keeps attracting bacteria. It's like you never win that battle. So we have to understand that the electrical field around each tooth that can be measured is very, very important to understand what is happening. In order to understand that, we can keep explaining this. For example, before explaining the change of polarity of a tooth, let's explain which kind of conflicts we can see in teeth, and why some conflicts are represented in teeth and why other conflicts are represented in the rest of the body. For example, imagine that you are running away from a lion. It's a normal conflict in nature. A predator goes behind the prey. So when you run away, we have to understand that man has an animal dimension and then a human dimension called ideation of the verb. It is this human dimension of relationship that can be interpreted in teeth. What is the ideation of the verb? So imagine that an animal is running away from the predator. When the animal runs away because wants to survive. When the human is running away, has this animal dimension that wants to survive, but the human dimension thinks or is in a symbolical relation with the lion. So while you're running, you think, oh my God, I cannot believe that I am going to die like this. Nature is betraying me. So you interpret this relation like betrayal, like the nature is betraying you. For example, this is just an example. So what you have represented on your teeth is this part of your relation, is your perception of a situation, not the animal perception, the human perception, which is more, who has more complexity than the animal reaction. Okay? This human interpretation, which is very subjective, is what we have expressed in teeth. So that's why we say that what we have represented in our mouth, the 32 teeth, are the 32 archetypes of relation, the 32 ways of living relations are expressed on your mouth through each one of your teeth. So here we are. Remember that when you have the neural tube, which is the first thing you can see in the embryology, you can see from the neural tube in the same area, you have the origin of brain and teeth. So the hardest part and the most subtle part of your biology come exactly from the same place. And remember that as they come exactly from the same place, they are part of the same system. So teeth have an, an electrical dynamic that is always informing and expressing things from the brain. Each neuron can manage 11 millivolts, and each tooth can create 220 millivolts. So in order to deal with one tooth, you need a neural node, a neural center to deal with that information, with that amount of energy. Just to have a reference, imagine that a AAA battery has 1500 millivolts. A tooth has 7 times less than that, 7 to 8 times less than that when it's in the normal way. Okay, so this energy is created through the vibration of those hydroxyapatite crystals. This is the kind of crystal which the tooth is made of. Those crystals vibrate with different frequencies. When they vibrate with different frequencies, this vibration, this friction between them, create energy, static energy. And this static energy is the one that is sent to the brain. The normal vibration is the one who creates 220. If it goes faster, if they vibrate faster, they will create more energy. When they do vibrate faster, they vibrate faster when what is happening is interpreted as a conflict. So if the new information that it's outside of you, it's an information that you don't have, you don't know how to deal with information, this is a conflict. So this tooth that has exactly the vibration of each relational archetype will vibrate faster and will create what? More electricity. So that's the way how the brain knows that what it's outside in the emotional field, it's a conflict because it will receive more energy created by the tooth which is vibrating much faster than what he normally do. So, understanding this, we may understand this an animal Prim's unit. We may understand how is this uh, polarity change dynamic. This is a single enamel prism. And the thing is that it has polarity. It is positive in one side and negative in the other side. When we have one or the other, we understand that each prism has this binary code, because binary code is zeros and one, positive or negative. It's just two different positions. It's not the same that here is positive or that here is negative. It's the opposite. Okay, so this is binary code. So just as a way to understand this example, let's try to understand the cavities formation law. As a dentist and as a university professor, it is very difficult to teach this at the university because what what it is teach what they teach on the university is that cavity comes from a system where bacteria would eat or would nutrate from sugar or glucose that it's in the place where the bacteria is over the tooth, for example, will eat that sugar, would process that sugar, and would eliminate acid, phosphoric acid. This phosphoric acid would create the cavity because it would make a hole in the in the tooth. But why many times we have people who eats a lot of sugar, never brushes, and do not have cavities, and people who is very strict, brushing and doing everything, and always have cavities? Why? Because now we understand that in order for a cavity to be created, we need three mandatory things to happen. Let's see those three things. Let me share with you. Yes. So those three things are, first of all, we need it's mandatory, the presence of bacteria, streptococcus, mutants. Those are the most common bacteria present in cavities. The second thing is that we need the presence of carbs, glucose, sugar. And the third thing is that we need the depolarization of dental mineral, of the surface of the enamel in that specific tooth. Why would that happen? Okay. Remember that cavity is the destruction of softening of enamel anorganic caused by the presence of acids produced by bacteria who consume carbs in areas where depolarization of the enamel occurs. They indicate unsolved unconscious conflicts. Therefore, cavities are considered active conflicts that our mental structure is living in real or symbolic state. So when you have a cavity, it means that you have an active conflict. It means that is something that you are living in your real or symbolic world, that is a conflict for you regarding that specific archetype. So let's put this example. This tooth is tooth number 3, upper right, central incisor, upper right, first molar. And this tooth here is lower right, first molar. When you close your mouth, they would touch each other. So as two cables, when they touch, they close a circuit. What does this tooth represent? This upper right first molar represents the father's gaze. The father's gaze is, is the gaze of the authority, is the gaze we needed when we were young. When you do something, when you swim in the pool, when you go to the park, when you bring something good from school, you need a father function who looks at you and tell you, "Oh, great, you're great. I am proud of what you did. Amazing." This means that I am okay because the authority is looking. It means gaze is looking at me, or she, because it's a father function, looking at me and telling me you are in the right way. You are hunting. Hey, you can keep going. Oh, okay, he's the guide. I can keep going. So it's the gaze. The lower molar, this lower right molar, between many other things, because it's our work and our professional field, but one of the most important things that the lower right first molar represent is the recognition. Okay? Remember that in psychology, you may live recognition in two different ways. And you will have it and will have recognition represented in both lower first molars. The right side represents recognition in the way of merits. Okay, I am proud of what you did. And in the left side, you leave recognition in the way of identity. Identity. Oh, how are you, Fabian? How are you? Oh, he's recognizing who I am. I recognize that person. So recognition by identity or recognition by merits. In the right side, that is is where we are using this example. In this right side, we are saying that this is recognition through merit. And this recognition through merit means that imagine that you have a childhood or an adolescence where you never felt recognized. You never had this proud gaze of the authority of your father function who never told you how proud he was. Many times, even look at you. Okay, so you have this emotional car inside of you. So, okay, you keep growing, you become an adult, and now you are in this new job where you have a very despotic boss. This boss is always telling things to you, he never recognizes you. Imagine you are 30 years old and this boss every day says, "Oh, you are good for nothing. You're not good at this. My goodness, I don't know what I was thinking when I hired you." Blah 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 blah. So every day you feel the same kind of conflict than when you were a kid, than you were an adolescent. So in that childhood, you had the programmation of the conflict, but now this is the now you have the trigger conflict, that this conflict that is inside of your unconscious. So now that you are experiencing this lack of recognition by merit, because your boss, the authority, looks at you in a bad way, it brings that conflict that was programmed when you were a kid. Every time you close your mouth, those two molars touch each other. And when they touch, as you are having the conflict, they send a lot of energy, a lot of electricity to your brain, to the central, uh, to the control center in your brain. They are not sending 220 millivolts, which would be normal. They are sending 3 times more. They are sending 660 millivolts. Let's look at it. So each time you close and each time they touch means that you are in conflict regarding this gaze of the authority and this feeling of feel recognized by your merit. So when they touch and there's no conflict, you send 220. But when you touch and you feel the conflict, as in the example I told you, you are sending more energy to the brain, 660 millivolts. So that would put in risk the neurons in the control center, because they are not prepared for 660. They are prepared for 220. So if two uh, teeth touch and create a short circuit, it's the same thing that two cables touch and create a short circuit. So the brain sends a signal to depolarize areas of the dental enamel so that there is no longer contact, and the increased voltage signal does not put the brain at risk. So the brain creates a cavity in order not to touch with the other tooth anymore. So if they don't touch, they don't close the circuit, and you don't send those 660 millivolts. So thanks to cavities, there is no contact between the conflicting areas, and therefore the increased voltage is not received by the brain. So the cavity has a protective function. How that happens? Imagine that you have the surface of the enema and you have bacteria in that surface. As if they were magnets, the positive side of one enema, of one crystal, attracts the negative part of the other. They attract themselves, so they are very close. When you give the bacteria, you give carbs, they, after a while, they create phosphoric acid. But the acid cannot penetrate between the crystals because they are very close, because they attract themselves. Okay? But when you have a conflict, or when you have a stress or a shock, you change the polarity of one area of the enamel. So in this area now, you have positive in this side, and the same polarity repels, as magnets, they repel each other. So now here you have bigger distance between them. When you have a bigger distance between them, now the phosphoric acid can penetrate in this part where the crystals repeat each other. And here, when the acid penetrates, is when you start releasing to the media calcium. And when you release calcium, when you lose calcium, you're losing matter, you're losing surface. So you create a hole, you create a cavity. Okay? So the emotional definition cavity is the cavity, it's a psycho-emotional, unconscious, active conflict of feminine dynamics. So it's an information with emotion that you are not aware of, that is a conflict for you, that is happening right now in this moment of your life, and you have to change yourself because you cannot change the outside, because that's why we say feminine dynamics or paced dynamics, because masculine dynamics change the outside. You use your energy to change your world. When you cannot change your world, you have to adapt to the world. So you have to use your feminine dynamics. You have to adapt yourself. I have to change myself because I cannot change the world. I have to change myself because I cannot change my boss in this example. So that is what a cavity is. And we have 197 different cavities regarding each surface of each tooth. We have a list, we have decoded each possible tooth at each possible cavity in any tooth. We have a list that we give it on our class. And when in our retreat, when we'll be feeling the circuits, because there's a way of feeling our psychology through touching. We'll see that I will tell you how to feel it. You can feel and see inside of you the conflict and the unconscious things you cannot see when you are not aware of that. That's why we have a retreat, because in the retreat, you will work with other people and with yourself to understand those hidden parts of your unconscious, because all the psychology, all human psychology is represented in our teeth. Okay? Even if you don't have a tooth, you have the memory in the bone where this tooth used to be. Because many times, one tooth, one specific tooth, represents a huge conflict that you are living. Maybe a father function, a guide, or this lack of protection represents something very conflictual for you. And each time you are in contact with that, you are in stress. And when you are in continuous stress, it means that you are in danger and your unconscious needs to survive. So it's better to lose the tooth than living in stress. So that's why we can decode when you lose a specific tooth, for example. So when you have a pathology, a cavity, a periodontal disease, you don't have a tooth, we can interpret that. So when we say relational conflicts, what are we talking about relations? What kind of relations? Well, we always talk about archetypical things. Humans have three archetypical conflicts that they represent the three ways of relation that human have. Let's look at them. The first conflict we have is a reality that we don't want to see, but we have to understand that we are going to die. The conflict that we are not eternal, that we are going to die. We are not like God. He is infinite. He will never die, but we are going to die. So, in order to be immortal, in order to keep being here, because our ego cannot understand that will not exist anymore. So how can we become immortal? Through our descendants, through our lineage. So we keep alive, we keep being alive through our descendants. So the first relational level is the relation, conscious or unconscious relation we have with our family tree, with our ancestors. And it comes from the eternity conflict because, oh, I will never die. I am the continuation of them, and I need to have a lineage to keep being alive. In this way, we understand that the eternity conflict links us to the ancestral relation, the relation with our family tree. Even if we don't know our family, we have a symbolic relation with them. Then we have other two conflicts that come from one conflict. Is the paradoxical conflict. Why? Because a paradox is something, there's a question that you cannot answer. Who came first, the egg or the or 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 the chicken? We don't know. Here we know that we need to be in a group to be safe, to hunt, to protect. We need to be in a group. But if we are in a group, we don't know who we are in our individually. So if you're alone, you're not in a group. If you're in a group, you're not alone. So that's a paradox. So we have this gregarious impulse, this impulse to be in a group, and this need for uniqueness, to know who I am. And in order to know who I am, I have to be alone. So this is a paradox. So you have here the two other main conflicts of humankind. This gregarious impulse links us to the relation with other people who is around you, your family, the people you know, the people in the market, every person outside of you is a gregarious relation. And there's a moment where you have to look at yourself. You divide yourself in two pieces, three pieces, many pieces as you want, and you can observe yourself. Oh, today I think that I feel happy. There's a part of you that looks at you and decides that you are happy, okay? Because you divide yourself. This is your ego. So in this conflict, you are in relation with yourself. Oh, you have those three levels of relation: the conflict of identity, the gregarious impulse, and your need for uniqueness. The conflict of eternity gives us our relation with ancestors. The gregarious impulses gives us the relation with others. And the need for uniqueness gives us the relation with yourself. Remember that the way you act on one level is the same as how you act on the other two levels. Okay? So many times you don't know your ancestors, but if you are living in injustice in your relation with others, you know that injustice happen on your history, and you're being unfair with yourself in your relation with yourself, because this is an archetype, and the archetype will act in the three levels. So understanding that, we'll see how the two dynamics are represented in our biology. Everything comes here into the adrenal. The adrenal have two parts, an external part and a middle. When you think that you have enough power to deal what is happening outside of you, you will stimulate the central part of the adrenal. So you will release adrenaline or adrenaline and many other um, substances that will give you power to act in the world, to change your world, to create things. When you feel that you cannot change what is outside, you will stimulate the external part of the adrenal, the cortex, and you will have many hormones, which the most important one is cortisol. And the cortisol will make changes in your DNA because you will have an epigenetical way of adapting. Remember what Bruce Lipton says. Bruce Lipton says that you have many things that are programmed on your DNA, and your the, the, uh, the media where you are, the external things that are around you can activate or deactivate parts of your DNA. That is, you do this through changing things on your histone. Your DNA is rolling around your histones, which are groups of proteins. When you have cortisol, the cortisol will make changes in those proteins, and those changes will activate or deactivate the orders. For example, the order of creating a condition, for example, Alzheimer, in the life of a person. This is called methylation or acetylation of histones. How is that? A histone acetylation is activated by a chemical change due to stress, cortisol, and is associated with DNA expression. So you will create a condition that will deal with what is happening. For example, in Alzheimer, we know through the decoding of Alzheimer that Alzheimer happens when you have to live two giant separation in your lives. If you have this condition programmed inside of you, when you have the second giant separation, a giant separation is a separation that you cannot process, you will activate the symbolic solution, which would be uh, to forget everything that is expressed in, for example, Alzheimer. If you take conscious and you change that stress, you can methylate that histone. That is the process that blocks the information contained in the DNA. So you will block the information, and for example, the recipe of creating, for example, Alzheimer will not be expressed. So everything happens there. Now we know that through the activation, psycho-emotional activation is the way that this happens. We have all kinds of conditions um, in a program in our DNA. So what are we activating? It all depends of the kind of stress. So talking about teeth, we can see that we have 4 quadrants, as we said. What you have on the right side of your mouth are the masculine dynamics. The left side of your mouth is your feminine dynamics. In the upper right, you will have the conflicts regarding father function, clan. What is a clan? Clan is the family of the father. Family is the family of the mother, but clan is the family of the father, where this is our archetypical group with which we hunt with. Okay. In the left side, in the upper left side, we have conflicts regarding family, mother, tradition, culture. In the lower left, we have the feminine dynamics, feminine centripetal energy, and home, kids, everything regarding our partner relationship and all those kind of things. In the lower right, we have our professional field. Okay, our profession, the way we do what we do. And each tooth will have a different representation. What we have to remember is that we have conflictual families tooth. Central and lateral incisors in all of the quadrants, they are a family, a conflictual family. Canines and wisdom tooth are conflictual family. Premolars, first and second premolar in each quadrant are a conflictual family. And first and second molars are conflictual family. So we have those different conflictual families that we'll see later how to deal with them. In this sense, we can let's share this. In this sense, we can see that. So we need to think about the tooth as a system. Why? Because, for example, here you have, let's use another color. Let's use red. Okay. So here to number 8, you have father function. When you bite, father function are father function is related in this side to number 7 is my relation to father function. So 8 is father function and 7 is relation to father function. When you close your mouth, this father function is related to tooth number 25 and lateral incisor and central incisor are related to tooth number 26. Tooth number 25 is our connection to aggressiveness and combativeness. Aggressiveness is the intensity, the energy we use to get what we want. The bad using of aggressiveness is violence. We are not saying that aggressiveness is violence. Aggressiveness is how intense you are in doing what you want, in conquer. And combativeness is to defend. When you feel that you are strong enough to defend your position, to defend yourself, to defend your real or symbolic um, field, you have to be you have to use your combativeness. So father function tells me how to use my aggressiveness and my combativeness, and is linked to tooth number 26, that is protection. Protection in the outside world is learned by the experience of father and with my relation with father. So they give us the experience with protection when we go out. So here, for example, in this system, we can understand how, okay, you close your mouth and they are related. When you express yourself, your expression goes when you make protrusion, when you move your lower jaw to the front, when you move your lower jaw to an anterior position. When you move your lower jaw, your incisive will be touching each other. So father function will tell us how to use our intensity, our aggressiveness, and how to protect when you go for what you want. Because the expression of who you are, your deep personality, is expressed in the lower six front tooth, from lower canine to lower canine. So when we go forward, it represents our moving, our expression. And our expression is made through the memory of my father function and my relation with father function, and with my mother function and my relation with mother function. 9 and 10 is mother function and my relation to mother function. My relation to mother function is also my relation with my body. So you will see many times how I relate to my body, how I appreciate my body, how I take care or not of my body is represented in tooth number 10, which is relation with mother function. One of the things a dental decoder should do is to identify who are those functions. Who is the father function and who is the mother function? Usually, the biological mother is the mother function. It's easier to find. But the father function changes a lot through life. Many times can be the biological father, then can be a professor, then can be a husband, then can be somebody who inspires me, then can be a project I have inside of me, it's concept. Is these things that makes me move. And in this diagram, you can understand how your moving creates that. Because in this diagram, you see that here you have okay, here you have your father function, here you have your relation to father function, here you have your mother function and your relation to mother function into number 10. To number 25 is your aggressiveness and combativeness. And to number 26 is the link to protection. Tooth number 24 would represent sweetness and fragility, because how you deal with something that is fragile, with something, uh, for example, a baby, a puppy, you have to use your sweetness. That is something you learn from mother. A mother, to deal with her baby, she has to express her sweetness. She can teach us that much more effectively than father, because she knows how to express sweetness. So you will never tell your fragility, your weakness to somebody who is not sweet with you. And into number 3, you see how you cherish, things, how you cherish people. Okay, so you it's the way how you adapt things, how you integrate things in yourself. So you learn that in your history of how you were related with your mother function. Okay, so we have to understand that those are systems. So many times you don't have to look just to the meaning of a single tooth. You have to understand the system in which this tooth is in. Okay, so those incisives are the ones who express how you are when you express yourself, when you go forward, when you try to deal with something in your life. Canines are very important in another moment. Canines are very important when you have to make decisions. Why? Because making decisions symbolically in your lower jaw moving means going to one side or to the other side. Okay? Lateral moving. If you are touching your teeth, when you go to one side or to another side, the only teeth who should touch are canines. It's the canine guide. The dentist will say that you have a canine guide. So, in order to take a decision, you will use the concepts represented in your canines. Okay, that are very important, those concepts. Which are those concepts? Those concepts are the next one. Here, in tooth number 6, we'll have obedience and obligations. Obedience and obligations. And in tooth number 27, which is the lower canine, we have the cooperation. Why you have those two concepts? Because in order to hunt, which is right side, go out using your energy, you need to go with a group. You used to hunt in groups. So you have to collaborate with others. And in order to collaborate, you are just a part of a system. You have to do your part in order to give dynamic to the system. So in order to collaborate with the group outside of you, in order to reach a goal, you have to collaborate and follow orders. Usually those orders are given by the father function, but you have to follow orders. You have to be obedient. You have to follow the laws. That's why when you go right, when you collaborate, when you are part of a team, you need to follow orders. Okay? Many times you'll see that you have an impacted canine. What would mean an impacted canine? An upper right canine, impacted canine, it's a canine that is not in its position. So if this canine is not in this position, you are free to collaborate with what you want. It means that in your family tree, in your ancestors, there were a lot of conflicts with obedience, with obligations, too many conflicts with that. So you send to the next generation the ability of not following orders, of not being obedient. You collaborate with what you want. You don't need this thing, this stupid thing that made me obligate me to collaborate with something that was very, very uh, hard for me, that it means suffering or something like that. So you have to reach the ancestral conflict with that. But you know that this person don't like to follow orders. Okay? After our break, we'll talk a little bit about left canines and many other things. Okay? So let's take a coffee, let's stretch our legs, 15 minutes, and we'll keep moving. Okay? See you in 15 minutes.
Thank you.
Okay, here we are for the last part of today. Please, if you have the possibility to leave your camera on, please do it so we can pretend we are in a group. Okay. So, we've been talking about the right canines. So, if we're talking about left canines, for example, let me share here. Okay. If we talk about left canines, compare left canine to the number